Yeah, to kind of touch on the crypto anarchist or cypherpunk ethos that started off the Web3 movement, it was a strong paranoia that Big Brother would be able to see what you're doing and be able to prevent you from doing whatever you wanted to do. And so I think blockchain came in to say, like, we should be able to have ownership over our funds, our tokens, whatnot, our data even, and be able to determine what that is. But then the just like Lauren said, is like everything you do on the blockchain is open and viewable to everyone, including Big Brother. And so adding that layer of privacy or security that that creates that separation, that actually puts the power into your hands, I think is very important.
And I think one of the most interesting things with this, because I come from a different perspective, right? I'm doing the corporate side where we need to document what's going on. We need to be auditable. We deal with public companies, you know, so it's not about they don't know. But our concern with privacy is more what can others figure out. For example, if I'm doing a transaction on chain, the concern is not, you know, I did a transaction, but if I'm Apple and I'm buying screens from a company in China, and you can see all my transactions to that company, you can figure out what I pay per screen, and that's proprietary information. So sometimes it's not about trusting the other party. In our view, we know we've established a connection with the other party. We've done it at an event, we've shaken hands, it's corporate, you know, B2B deals. But how do we make sure that that information is not given to other people? And that is kind of the other flip side of privacy that I think is often overlooked in the true ethos of, you know, that very libertarian world of encryption. So,
I guess I would ask people to consider what actually identity is. And it's basically, I would say, the ability to connect events across time or space to a single entity, right? And so you either want to be able to reveal that connection or you want to be able to hide that connection, depending on how you want to interact with a particular community.
That's great stuff. One question, how many people here have an ENS or Unstoppable Domains address that points back to your wallet and your activity? It's really interesting how, like, in the Bitcoin world, the UTXO world, you had a new wallet every time you did a transaction, a new wallet address. It wasn't trying. Now, you have like a credit rating essentially that's created based on an address that you have and the activity going in and out of that. There's also people that get paid in crypto. That's all on chain, and so people know exactly how much. So those companies that are completely on chain, that privacy that they have is pretty much gone, right? That they know exactly how much is going in. So what kind of technologies are we looking at now to protect people who are, you know, Web3, degens, whatever, they're leveraging the technology, getting paid on crypto to give them some trust that they're not going to get docked on how much they're making and why? Who wants to take that one?
So I think one of the things to... Okay, everyone's paying attention now.
Check.
So I would say one of the most interesting things is sometimes maybe you go off chain. For example, you could move, hello? So one of the things you could talk about is you could bring the money to a centralized environment for a certain amount of spending where that wouldn't be public, but the big transactions are. Like some of it becomes, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can create private areas. And that's where we see, like, we work with companies and we move money from our wallet. We may move some of it to a bank account. We might move some of it to a debit card. We might leave some of it on chain. And all those areas have different levels of privacy, and it's not necessarily all or nothing. And you might use a third-party intermediary to do it. And there's a lot of reasons. And, you know, it is the saddest thing that the UTXO model didn't transfer to anywhere else. I did a project with Cardano, and that's an interesting hybrid. It's the same kind of, like, you have that level of privacy because each address is unique. And that's something definitely missing on the account side, and definitely some of the areas, you know, as developers, it's really important to figure out how you offer that privacy when you need it and that transparency when you need it.
Can I grab that for a second? So the Nexa blockchain is UTXO model, and we do have an address for every transaction, so it does have that pseudo-anonymity. And we think that unlike Bitcoin, with such a small amount of transactions, it's more easily de-anonymized. How would you even say that? That if you start to have a large number of transactions, then the analysis algorithms grow by often n log n, or the square even, of the amount of transactions. So you end up having this massive analysis problem that you don't have in a low scalability blockchain.
Yeah, so I think maybe some folks have heard of like things like Tornado Cash. We have these mixers. These are have come under fire in recent years, and now we see a bit of backpedaling on that technology, which I think is great. So when it comes to like payments, you can sort of start to obfuscate how much people are getting paid in the context of like a business being on chain. But then you also have zero knowledge proofs that can be incorporated in this, where like Alex was saying, like as an operating business, you want to be able to reveal certain information to regulators or stakeholders, whomever, that you want to know, and then obfuscate it for other people. So using ZK, which hasn't really seen its day in the sun quite yet, but has been talked about a lot, I think, are the technologies that are coming to the forefront that are going to be able to make this kind of middle ground transition between what data I hold and what data I want to reveal to the world.
Yeah, and I think the steps toward programmable privacy in this way are more or less clear. But if you step back and look at the motive, yeah, so like quick poll, if I asked you to make your bank account and all of your statements public, your whole credit card, who is willing to do that? No, not a single person, right. We are not willing to share this information, we know that, but the bigger issue at play is that the bots can also see this. And so while it's the issue of privacy because you just would rather have that privacy, we're actually losing money to the invisible MEV attacks here. And so by being able to encrypt the information before the transactions take place, you are saving your users, you're saving yourself, you're saving anybody involved in the process the pain of being front run, so.
I wanted to add a quick thing to what Lauren just said, is like in the Web 2 world, when you're shopping on Amazon or whatever retailer online, you're giving them your data on like purchase history, and then they're using that to build profiles on you, and so in a sense that information is already out there, but you're giving it to specific people. And so in the Web3 space, that problem kind of gets exasperated, but the power that you can gain back by actually owning and controlling your data is quite powerful. And yeah.
So one of the toys we're playing with as a way of kind of getting the UTXO onto the account model is, obviously, you can spin up as many wallets as you want. You just can't necessarily track them easily. What I find interesting is that we work with Circle a lot, and they have a thing called CCTP, the Cross-Chain Transfer Protocol. And basically, because they're the issuer of the coin, you destroy it on one chain, mint it on the other. That's an off-chain transaction. So you can't see where it went, and as the transactions gets bigger, it's hard to see. So that starts to become the, if I set up a receiving account for each client, no one can see anything else. Because Circle can see it, absolutely. So again, it all depends what's public, who sees it, who do you trust. Like, everything's in privacy is a trade-off, right? But if I'm willing to accept here is a regulated entity that does it, then I can get privacy from prying eyes. If I want privacy from prying eyes, then I have to worry about other things. Somewhere someone sees something, you just have to kind of pick your poison.
Great. How many people here are familiar with ZK proofs, what they are? Okay, just, and somebody's going to say, Russell, this is a horrible thing. If you don't know what ZK proofs, zero knowledge proofs are, one like example for humans is like look over the balcony here and down there. There's a zero knowledge proof right there. Everybody that you see walking around definitely has a ticket and has a VIP ticket down there, but you don't know that they actually bought it. You don't know who they are, but you can look and say, oh yeah, they must have had those things to get in. So that's a human sort of powered ZK proof, in case you're wondering. So let's move this back from the more technical to the less technical. We have a lot of people who are potential users of dApps and contracts. How does an individual user know that they can trust a dApp or a contract? So I'll give the first answer on that just because I want to throw this out. one way that you know is that you're affiliated with a community, and that community has said, please use this app for whatever. Now, maybe they did it on Telegram or whatever. That's not so great. But there is a vouching that's happening for the dApp that you're doing. Or it might just be that you went to Product Hunt and somebody did it. But there's a certain level of trust you're going to do before you just try every single dApp. So who wants to open up this one?
Yeah, I briefly mentioned earlier the transparency problem we have. Because everything on the blockchain is transparent, that does give us the ability to read the contracts to make sure they're intact. That means that those contracts can go through formal audits. I mean, these things can be checked in advance. And so there's no reason to blindly trust something when you can verify it.
Yeah, very, very similar to what Lauren said. As a developer relations engineer, everybody, I'm going to encourage you to learn to code and to be able to read code. But that doesn't always mean that something's safe just because you can read it and you think it's safe. I think there's also strength in numbers and in a community that also knows how to code. And that's where the community piece comes in and auditing firms come in. But it's not just one individual person or entity vouching safe any protocol, but it's the more people, the more entities that come together and say, I stake my kind of social credit almost, my reputation as a person, saying that this is safe, that kind of comes together to make these things as safe as one can ever know something is safe. Because there's always going to be the chance for smart contract bugs or failures to come along. And so I think there's still a space there to aggregate these trust scores as a community. I don't think that's fully solved yet.
So it's funny, if we go back and look 25 years ago at the Web 1 days, right? Yeah, AOL. So I was gonna say, like, there was a time that you went and searched for something on the internet, very early days, and you'd go to Yahoo, and you'd get something really random. Like, you'd look up the Yankees, and you'd get, like, Alan's Yankees fan page. You know, the way Backrub, which became Google, knew they had figured out a better mousetrap was literally they typed Yankees in, and it found the New York Yankees. And they did that by checking links and backlinks, and it was modeled on the academic citation model. One of the neat things, you know, the social web did the same thing in Web 2.0. Followers, engagers, that started to create influencers, and that created kind of that level of engagement. So I think what we're going to see as Web3 does it, as we're alluding to, people voting for you, vouching for you, that all being on chain makes it verifiable. But in the end, the question is, who has the voting power? How do you trust? Does my connection to you think LinkedIn connections, first, second, third? I think there's a lot of solutions that can give levels of trust. And then I ultimately believe the ultimate thing is, you know, it's like sitting down at a casino, right? I don't care how regulated it is. Don't sit down at a table with money you won't lose. So make sure that as you're doing things, don't put all your chips on the table. Keep what is appropriate for that level of risk, and the way we handle risk everywhere else in life. Insurance, documentation, and process, right? Money gets stolen. Money gets stolen from well-established projects, as we've all seen the last few days, you know, no matter how audited. So it's really about spreading the risk, making sure you kind of hide by having that much transactions.
So the problem that everyone's talking about exists in Ethereum, and what it is that you cannot, unless you're, you know, an expert developer, look inside a contract and see what it does. So you sign it, and you hope that it does what's advertised, right? So Nexa basically solves this problem completely. Okay, what we do is we extract out all of the operations that happen on the blockchain. You can make these exact changes to the blockchain record, and that's it. And so what the contract does when it executes is simply say, yes, these changes are possible, like go ahead and make those changes, or no, the transaction is illegal. But because the changes that actually happen on the blockchain are just written in a list basically at the top of the transaction, you can't sign a transaction by accident and have your NFT magically disappear from your account.
So this is getting, we're going to get a little more technical now here. A lot of people over time have talked about how blockchain would be a great solution for storing all of your personal data or storing your healthcare data. If you're in privacy, you shriek and freak out when you hear things like that. What is there out there to protect a lot of projects that may be churning through loads and loads of individual users' data or people's data that aren't even users to protect them from whoever owns the computers that are actually processing them.
So this is where I'd like to double click on one specific cryptographic mechanism, fully homomorphic encryption. That is the focus that we have right now. So the beauty of this is that you can actually compute on the data while it's in its encrypted state without the need to decrypt it first. And this is something that we can't see done with ZK, we can't see done with MPC or other mechanisms. And so the ability to actually run those computations on the data while it's hidden means that the computation engines, the nodes, anybody involved does not get to see that data at any point until it is authorized, and the only authorized party is able to decrypt it and see what was underlying there in the first place.
I also think that's really cool, but I would also argue that the blockchain is not really an appropriate place to stick all this random data. And from just an experiential perspective, it's very inefficient, right? You're not really saving much, and people actually create, normal SQL databases on top of blockchains that just show the blockchain information. It's so hard to get the base information from the blockchain itself. So I think, an argument would be, while wrapping it in fully homomorphic encryption, you're also going to stick it in another layer, like high-powered database.
No, you are absolutely right. Just because we can encrypt it and put it on chain does not mean that we need to. I think that this is a problem, through the progression of blockchain through the past, I want to say a few cycles, where we're put everything on chain. It doesn't need to be. Some things just frankly don't need to be decentralized, and that's okay. Totally aligned.
And I'll be the contrarian again. I think that ultimately it all does go on chain, right? Everything went on cloud, early IT. Corporations will never put their data on cloud. Nobody runs a data center anymore. I sat in the basement of banks at the beginning of my career, and there'd be big mainframes everywhere. No one's building that out now. It's all on Amazon. But you had to have a layer of abstraction. Ultimately, privacy is a human problem, not a technology problem. We can use encryption to prove who can see, who can't see, and make those connections. But ultimately, my mom clicking a link in her email is a much easier way to get it than worrying about hacking the algorithm. So I think a lot of this is figuring out what is the user experience, what is the user interface, and how do normies interact with it. And ultimately, the encryption and all that goes behind the scenes. And that's how we've gotten to the place where everyone trusts the web. It took many years before everything had HTTPS on it, but in the end, everything's encrypted now. And the hacks don't come through breaking the encryption, the hacks come through a phishing email.
Sorry, real quick question. So the assumption that I guess everything will eventually end up on chain would require that individuals, institutions, we all pay gas for these, every single piece of data and everything that's done with that data. Do you think that we'll get to a place where people are comfortable with that for something that's currently free?
Nothing's free, right? If you store it on your own server, you're paying for the hardware, you're paying for the electricity, and you're paying for someone to maintain it. If you're putting it on your own personal device, you're paying for it, and you're buying the replacement when you drop the phone in the pool, right? There's a cost anywhere, and eventually the cost of the humans gets more and the cost of the technology gets less, which is why I haven't built a RAID file server in 12 years, but at the time, cloud was super expensive, and that's just, the nature of it is people are expensive, technology is cheap. In the end, the blockchain gets cheap enough. Sure, there's gas fees, just like you pay electricity and you don't even notice. It's just going to get paid. It's just going to be your AI account system, and you're going to pay your nickel of gas every week. Or at the time, it'll be $400, but it'll be a nickel of today's money,
Yeah, I think I'm going to try and bridge the gap here. I can foresee a future where, everything is on chain, so to speak. And I think about this concept of an Overton window, where it's basically the idea is nothing's more powerful than an idea whose time has come. And I think like you were saying, we can do all these things technologically, but like Lauren was saying, it needs a lot of buy-in by individuals, institutions, the education involved to actually manipulate and handle all of this security and private keys in your own hand and managing all of that. And so I think we're not quite at the point in this on the social layer that people are ready to engage with these things, but on a technological layer, like we are kind of there and pushing the edge, and maybe it's not ready for prime time, so to speak, where the costs have gotten low enough that it's accessible. But I think those windows are always moving and shifting, and I think we're moving towards an overlap of that social layer and the technological layer being ready for it.
So this has been great. I wish we could talk about it more. I'm ready to write a database that stores itself in an ordinal. But regardless, why don't we just take, we only have like 4 minutes. So each of you take a minute to talk about what your company or what any project you're associated with is doing to improve trust in the current ecosystem.
So my project is Nexa, a layer 1 blockchain. It's a UTXO blockchain. It has a lot of interesting privacy features that we talked about, and also interesting properties on the trust and permissionlessness of the smart contracts that it allows you to write.
So I'm Web3 Enabler. We are the Salesforce development partner doing all things blockchain. And what we're doing is we are putting blockchain behind the scenes of normal business processes. So it is that same kind of feeling of, this person, you're doing business, you're sending payments and tracking, and we support 18 chains. We're adding more every day. We're adding those that have privacy enablement. We have privacy and trust partners. So we plug in everyone's technology, and we let corporations use those that are appropriate for their business use case.
I'm with Phoenix. We built a confidentiality layer for Ethereum by homomorphically encrypting data off-chain and then allowing the result to be visible on-chain. So our prerogative right now is to find builders to encrypt things, make it all private. If you're building something, come talk to me.
Yeah, I work for the Algorand Foundation as developer relations, so I'm out in the space trying to encourage people that are crypto curious, technologically savvy to build their own projects, gain the skills that, like we were saying, allow you to read contracts and kind of understand them, so you can vouchsafe things on your own, and then you can also build the things that you want to see in the world, things that you would use yourself, and hopefully your mom and grandma would want to use as well.
All right, wrap us.
Thanks a lot, everybody. By the way, I should just give my quick plug. I'm a co-founder for unicorn.eth. You can visit myunicornaccount.com, and we help the trust by enabling organizations, businesses, and communities to highlight and to focus their users to using the dApps that they actually want to with zero snags at all. So thank you very much. I hope you trust us a little more than you did when you started, and we earned that trust. And we'll get on to the next panel. Thank you.